We're still trying. There you go.
Hi, welcome to the Loch Alpine Board meeting of June 16th, 5 p.m. Let's bring this meeting to order at, I'm sorry, Brian, say it again.
5:03.
5:03. Roll call, Barb, please.
Dorney,
Here.
Brevant. Absent, D'Angelo,
Here.
Harms. Absent, Flintoff is absent, Carrie,
Present.
Yeaple,
Present.
We have,
4.
okay, just made it. All right. Next is adoption of the agenda. Were you able to go through and?
I don't have any comments.
No comments,
Neither.
no changes?
No.
Okay, one thing is that Colleen, I had, based on how Scioto Township has done their agendas regarding budgets and water rate, and whatnot, I broke it up, but if we could have,
It's just that I have to leave here
Yeah.
by 6:30.
Okay.
6:45.
so if we could, whatever you need to present, and then we could at that time vote on whatever item it is, if you're okay with that, because we were gonna wait till later, but I mean, it's,
Yeah, and I can wait until if it starts to get too late, if we could just pull it up. I really appreciate it, Jill.
oh, well, let's just do whatever you need to present. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine.
Great. Okay, but then that's the only change if there, we could have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
To adopt as amended.
As amended. And you second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? None.
Recording in progress.
Agenda's adopted. We okay there?
I'm trying.
That's not-
That's a good reverb.
Ryan, could you mute?
Not muted.
Recording in progress.
No, she should be muted. Yep.
Okay,
Super, Ryan, thank
Yep,
you.
you're up as panelist.
there were a couple of correspondences that are included. And now is the time for public comments. This is the time for members of the public to speak to the LASA board for up to 5 minutes related to items on the agenda. And we generally start with anybody that is here present.
My name's Andrea Lucan. I've been to a couple meetings. I had an incident in my home. I don't know that you could go back and watch the other meetings, but, where sewage had come in through my house, through the main. And the only update I have is that I saw an email from Yuko to Michigan Power Routing that the file was corrupt. And I don't know why that happened, but they did come back out today just to measure my line and see it was completely intact. And I've used them before, so the last time Steve from Michigan Power Routing came out, and I do have another USB if you need it, but it's today. So I have the notes from the previous. But it was just to make sure the measurements were correct, so if it's 112 feet until from my line. And so when they came out, I think he said 113, it was Tommy from Michigan Power Routing. And they came out and they got more line, and then it was 130 feet, so they got into the main. And he explained to me today that the main is much bigger. And he said typically when they see these things, that it's blatantly obvious when it's a main line, because the main sewer is bigger. And even if I ran everything in my house and everyone was going to the bathroom and the showers, and it wouldn't be this massive, and it would be clearer water. You know, so there was, I think I gave you the picture too of like the sludge afterwards. And so like they said it's a no-brainer. They said, this is like open and shut case. Because as soon as M&K came out on the 7th in the morning, it rescinded the water, and then I was just left with the waste, the fecal waste. And so I'm just, I did some of my things too, like my husband and I, we had to replace our furnace AC. And so we didn't want to go with just whatever. So we don't expect to be paid for upgrading, but we do expect to be in reimbursed for whatever today would cost for that. Because we did not want to buy a new furnace right now and ours was still working. So, my estimates might be a little off from previous, so I just want to be reimbursed for my loss. And I just want a fair, speedy, amicable resolution, that's all. And I'm happy to give any more documentation that I can. I feel like I've given everything I have. And you know, I'm available, so I don't want this to be a litigious situation. I feel everybody's told me it's clear, so I don't want to get into that.
Well, thank you. And it's, as you know, it's still within the insurance company for investigation. I haven't heard anything. I don't think anybody else has heard back.
I did bring the Public Act 222 and it did say 45 days. And we're getting close to that. So.
Okay, and the flash drive, we can get that from you. I think that would help.
I could have you, it's the only one I have now. I have no copy of it. And I'm not good. What I think would have happened is I have an Apple and they didn't tell me it wasn't Apple friendly, so that might have tried to reconfigure it. I don't know what happened.
We can give you some flash drives. So
Yeah.
you can have an extra and make it.
If I can stay after and you can transfer it over with me not losing my truth, then I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
But that is honestly from today, not the date of the loss.
Right, yeah.
So. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh,
Yes.
Heidi.
Hello, Bob Sandra and Loch Alpine. I have two questions. One is just operational about the way the meetings work. I watched the video of the meeting, the operations meeting the other day. And I could not get the closed captions to show on my computer, and I just wondered if that actually is being sent with a closed caption that I can click on so that I can read it when I watch it on a computer. It is?
Should be.
I can follow up with, on that. I don't know offhand, but I would think it should be.
I would appreciate that because these brand new expensive hearing aids aren't worth a damn, and I would like to, I can't hear very well in here. I'd like to at least hear on my computer and on my television. Sure. Okay, now, other,
Oh, yes.
because I was watching that on video, that means I didn't attend the meeting on Friday. But I sent you an email with some questions that I thought, and it's not anything that you have to deal with right now, but I hope that you got this.
We did.
It had to do with, our sewer location maps correct and used by inspection contractors? Are the manhole locations indicated and properly shown on that map? Are periodic sewer inspections done, blockages cleared, et cetera, et cetera? And if we could find something like when these sewer inspections are done, as we are not updated as to when the hydrant flushings are going to be done. If we could know when the sewer inspections are done and where they are, so we have some comfort level to know that those kinds of things are being done. And does the inspection and clearing contractors agreement hold them liable for work if not done correctly? And then I had some other questions about excavators too, working on that blockage that day. So when you could get around to that kind of thing, whether it's this board or the operations committee, we would appreciate the whole subdivision, the board of Loch Alpine would appreciate those answers.
Bob, I did respond to your email, but today I received an email from you saying that you had laryngitis and that you needed me, you know. So I think there's something going on and you may not have received my response.
I'm so sorry that you got that. Here's you and over 200 other people.
Oh.
Received an email
That you have
from somebody that broke into my Comcast address book. And they all said people were calling me, my grandson in France, my niece in California, my cousin in Chicago. Everybody's asking me how I'm doing. I know what they're talking about for a long time, and then I got all these rejected emails, hundreds of them that came back to me from old addresses, contractors who've gone out of business, everything bouncing. So
Oh, that's fine, and I'm glad to hear there's a lot of people that care about you. That's the good thing that came out of this, but.
I might just send that to you again. Oh, yes, the other thing, also you had asked about shared duties and concerns between Loch Alpine and the association and the Sanitary. I prepared that, I've sent it to our board to review it, and I think I'll send that to you tomorrow also.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, thank you. You're with Woodhill. Yeah, Jake. Ryan, anyone online?
And online, please raise your Zoom. There's 2 participants and. Not seeing anybody online with their hand up.
Okay.
If I can have one more thing, I do have a picture that I did send in an email after the ops meeting. And it's time stamped on my phone, I took it with my phone, showing the sewage in the manhole. Once Steve DeWolf came out and hit it off with a sledgehammer. It popped it off really quick, and then you could see the sludge in there. And that has it was like 5:20 on May 6th. And then that's when they, Kyle from M&K and Andy from F&B,
Oh, F&B, yes.
said, yep, I walked out, they said, yep, it's in your main. And we'll come back in the morning. So I had to go another 13 hours and wait for them to come back in the morning. And then by 7 o'clock the next morning, it was down. But that whole time I had this much sewage going through my house and out the door. So, but I do have a picture I can get that to you again if you need it, but I did send you an email.
Okay, I will double check that. Okay, I'm sure you did. Had a lot of emails come in.
Oh my God, I'm probably one of the big senders. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, hi, Tony. Hello, how are you? Good. Moving on to approval of the minutes. We have the April 7th and the May 29th. So the May 29th there was just the, we noticed that the draft minutes were not uploaded. So anyways, Barb had found them and made copies for everybody. And that's in the packet that I just handed out to you.
I move the special meeting minutes of May 29th, to be approved as presented.
Is there support?
I'll second. Oh, yeah,
You okay?
yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? May 29th minutes are approved. For the April 7th minutes? Are there any changes? No, is there a motion to approve the April 7th minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Your support?
Support.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
April 7th minutes approved. Payment of the bills, so. Which is a little bit different, because we go 3 months in between, so many bills have already been approved. However, there's some that in this past couple of weeks that have come in. And since we're having a board meeting, I included them. So, there's 2 invoices from Pierce, Sperling, Egan and Daniels. Annual chlorine gas and SO2 system invoice. M&K jetting, televising, F&V, LASA, oh, that's the June, and then May is the addition, so I asked F&V for when they have an additional charge that they provide more details. So I did put it in the title, it's extra, it's overtime for the water tower and the sewer backup.
That's the only question I would ask is M&K's bill just says heavy jetting 800 feet and clean 1 structure. Doesn't say specifically where it was doing this.
Oh, yeah, it's up at the topic.
Oh, is it that
Climbing-
address?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
An emergency there. And I believe that was discussed at the April 7th meeting,
Yeah,
but the bill came in. It
Yeah.
came in, it was sitting there, so.
I'd make a motion to approve the payment of the bills as presented.
I second the motion.
Are you two in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're just whipping right through that. Could we do a roll call vote, please? Or, yeah.
Warning,
Aye.
Brabant,
Aye.
D'Angelo,
Aye.
Harms, absent, Flintoff, absent, Carrie,
Yes.
Yeaple.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you. Well, Colleen, let's go ahead with those presentations.
Is Ted online?
It
Ted?
is online and he's promoted as analyst, so you should be able to mute
Oh.
himself. Hi, Ted.
Hey, Ted, do you wanna do your CIP first, because that walks into the budget and the rates, I've got it up if you want me to share my screen or if you wanna share.
I would be happy to have you share.
Okay, then, let me do it. Hang with me here,
And
Ted.
make sure both are promoted.
Okay.
I'll just make sure she. Yeah, looks like it's gonna work.
It's not a one yet. Here you are, Ted. Can you get to it? Can you see it?
Here that I can see, so we're good. So I guess I'll kind of break this down between water system and wastewater system. For the water system, we're looking at adding a generator to the well house 2. I think that the costs we have in there now are a little optimistic for when we actually went and looked at it, and so I think that the total number for 2026 works for the well house 2, but we might have to push the water plant generator and the iron filters to a future year. But we'll tweak that as we go forward. For the wastewater system, we've been planning a tertiary filter and UV project. We're hoping to plan for that project. The timing of it is kind of coinciding when the SRF bond from 2005 or 6 expires, so that that it kind of mitigates the hit on the budget. The tertiary filters would help with the future phosphorus limits, and it also allows us to add the UV disinfection, which gets rid of chlorine gas and sulfur dioxide gas, two things that are kind of a hazard on site. So that sums it up. We added the sewer cleaning as kind of a placeholder. I don't know if that should go in maintenance or on this spreadsheet. So any questions?
Because it was such a large ongoing maintenance, we decided to because it was such a large ongoing maintenance, we decided to keep it on here. Just so it doesn't get lost in the weeds of other maintenance.
He's right here.
9. Did you hear me?
Where's Ryan? Ted, can you hear Colleen? Can you hear any of us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took that as a statement, not a question. I
Oh.
didn't know I needed to answer. Sorry.
You didn't, but you could hear me, Ted. Now I don't understand. So I should probably mute again? No, I am muted. Okay, no idea. All right. We're good. The 25,000 is staying on there.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so since the CIP is up, then I'll just talk about the financing component. So capital improvement plan without a financing component is just a nice set of numbers on a piece of paper. So if you're gonna have a capital improvement plan, we have to know how we're gonna pay for it. And so a portion of your rates goes into funding the capital improvement. Our number one goal though is to make sure you're not dipping into the reserves we have to pay for operations, right? You have a system you have to maintain. We have to know that you're able to maintain it. And so we took the capital improvement plan that was discussed at the operations committee. It's now coming forward to the board. When we did our rates, Woodhill is taking. We do need Ryan, don't we? Woodhill is taking that as, this is what we're requesting the board approve. So at the very minimum, when you do rates, we want to make sure that we are capturing what we call depreciation. Depreciation is the wear and tear of the system over the 1 year of use. So at the very minimum, your users have to pay for that 1 year of wear and tear. Oh, Ryan, we do need you. Things are happening.
Sorry.
So at the very minimum, we need, at the very minimum, we need to put aside depreciation because that's what you just used up of the system for the year, right? And we set that aside for capital. However, depreciation is rarely enough because depreciation, the price of the wear and tear for the year is based on what we bought the system for 20 years ago. But that is nowhere near what it's gonna cost.
I just don't get this.
Like everything moves that way.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you go that way.
Is that what was happening?
Okay, so just so we're all aware that depreciation cannot begin to fully cover your capital replacement costs. Are there any questions on that? So depreciation is the wear and tear of the system based on the original cost. But what your operations group and your engineering group have to handle is the replacement at current year costs. So when we put aside for capital, depreciation is the minimum amount we want to put aside. So our problem in LASA is that you were not putting away even the minimum amount when Woodhill was brought in. So we did step that up a little bit last year. We have now stepped up a little bit of that recapture this year. You are still not fully covering charging out your depreciation. So we left about how much on the table? 39,000. So we are not covering 39,000. Last year it was 90. So last year we did not recover 90. This year we are not recovering 39. So what we're projecting though in the capital plan is that next year you will be under full, in 27, you'll be under full recovery of depreciation, which then gets us closer to what a lot of your capital dates were based on is trying to get that debt paid off, right? So that you could free that money up. So if you look at, the loss of proposed capital improvement summary, which I do have up online, you will see that come 2029, we are reallocating the debt rate to the capital reserves, which is about $300,000 a year, right? That's your principal and interest cost. So in addition, in 2027, you'll see that the projection steps you up from recovery of rates to 146,000. That's the depreciation that we're trying to recover. So we're gonna hang on to the depreciation, plus we're gonna throw the debt payment into capital come 2029. So once we kind of looked at this projection, right, when we were talking about it at a staff meeting, for presentation to the ops committee, really, the tertiary filters is an interesting situation. It's a positive movement environmentally for LASA, and it's only gonna get more and more expensive. So the thought is to wait until 2030, when we really have all the money, seems kind of possibly short-sighted. If you look at 2027, we're gonna close the year at the very bottom. We're expecting to close the year with 475,000 in your capital reserves. We come up to 2028, and so we're closing with 475. What we've done is we've said we can start your project, your tertiary filter, in 2027. That's your engineering, your bids. Let's get some things moving. So once we get it moving, 28 is our problem, 28, maybe 29. And it is worth this board discussing moving this project forward with a short-term loan from one of your townships, right? A short-term loan of $500,000 for 18 months will move this project forward without having us make us wait. And it's a win-win situation. We don't want to go out and bond for something this small. And, do we really need to wait? The cost is only going up. So it's an option when we were looking at the financing that we were able to talk to you about, right? No decision has to be made right now, but it's certainly an idea worth floating, right? Why are we waiting? We have two townships who are members of this board that can give us an 18-month short-term loan at a, whatever interest rate you want. And it gets the project done. So you'll see when you look at your capital improvement plan, what we've been able to do. So when you talk about how are you gonna pay for capital, right? We like to have something in reserves. However, we are gonna have to go borrow money, and that's very typical. What we don't wanna do is be borrowing money every other year or even every third year. We don't wanna borrow less than $1 million. It is expensive to borrow money. Not only are you paying the interest, it's expensive to go get the bond. It's $100,000 in costs for your attorney fees and your financial advisors, right? So we want to try and handle the projects we can on our own and push everything else to a certain year. And you can see that that's where you end up in 2035. In 2035, maybe 35, 36, right? We asked Ted to push it in here so that we could have it on our screen. You need another $6 million, of which you're gonna have to borrow maybe 3.5. So we've been able to get you through the next 10 years to a point where, okay, now you're gonna have to borrow. But we've been able to accomplish all these other pieces. I know it's a lot to kind of think about, but are there any questions? I don't know.
2 questions for you offhand.
Yeah,
One is the current, the current assumed amount starting in 2027 for connections or for the reserve. Sorry, I knew it was gonna happen. There's 146,600. That never steps itself up throughout this capital plan.
no, it doesn't. So it's the step up would be not material.
Okay.
Right, I mean, if you look at all the things, the water tower, the well house, I mean, the life expectancy is 20-25 years, so it just isn't material. So it's just all a place saver, right? But yeah, if we recover more than that, then we'll have more in the reserves.
Are we also assuming that this We have no idea how much $3.9 million of water main is or isn't in 2035 at this point. Is that assumed off today's cost?
Yeah, the whole thing is assumed off today's costs,
Okay.
right? I mean, we didn't go to the extent of doing a projection, which, you know, the PPI, so we do have some rate studies where we're using the consumer price index for purchases of this type, right? And it's a 4% increase right now, right? But last year, it was only a 1% increase, so it's a crapshoot either way, right? So at today's dollars, this is where we're at. And this is the reason that really LASA went from 2018, I think, to 2024 without doing any rate increases. It is the reason you have to look at this every year, right? Every year, these numbers get better. I mean, it's kind of hard to ask an engineer to go out 10 years and give you a ballpark figure, right? I mean, you know, if we can, we're feeling pretty good about our 5-year out into 2029. But out to 10 years, that's asking too much, right? Especially with the way prices are fluctuating. So, so anyhow, this is the capital plan. And this is how, and we need this, it's almost impossible to do rates without understanding what do you guys need to keep the system safe and effective, right? So, okay, so Ted, I just took over your conversation, didn't I? Sorry.
That's quite all right. I think the financing part was much more applicable to you than it was to me, so that made a lot more sense.
The hanging fire is, will we get the same permit next, next time around that we currently have? If the permit remains the same, this is a good plan. If the permit gets changed by Eagle, then that's gonna change some things.
Which Andrea brought up this point before, and so that is why the 500,000 is in 2027 when we start outlaying for the tertiary, because her point exactly, we're thinking you'll know by then,
We
right?
should know by
You
then.
should know by then what the permit is. So again, if you keep the same permit, this is the plan. If the permit changes, we will know before we start outlaying money in 2027. But thanks for bringing that up again, yeah, so.
And I'm sorry, so 2027 is when we're.
Okay.
Or.
No, it's currently at the permits division. When I talked to permits division, they said 18 months to get the permit back. Or both, and both Dexter and Loch Alpine are sitting on their desks right now. And they're hoping to get it back within, as I said, 18 months, and we'll know if there are any changes.
18 more months or?
18 more months
Okay.
from now,
From now.
from actually last month.
That was when it was submitted?
It was, Loch Alpine submitted theirs a month ago, and we submitted ours in January.
That's a pretty typical time frame for renewals. It takes forever.
Okay, so everything is fluid, right? So what we have to understand is it's all fluid all the time, which is why we have to look at it every year. All right. So I think we actually do need the board to approve the capital improvement plan. And remember, it is a plan, right? So it isn't like you're committing to anything. You're committing to a plan. It's just like a budget. So when we request approval for a plan or a budget, right? It's still subject to the purchasing requirements, meaning you've said, okay, we're gonna approve this capital improvement plan. And it includes $120,000 for the water tower exterior. Now, your staff isn't just gonna go out and spend 120,000, right? It's all gonna come back to you to say, here's the bids, can you approve the contract? So this is your approval of a plan. And then before things actually occur, now granted, we're buying office supplies without coming back and talking to you, but we are not spending your big capital money without coming back to you, right? So, and yet every time they come back to you, you have a chance to say, no, can you twist it this way or do that, right? So this is just the plan. This is not that you're saying, I just committed to spending $390,000 for the water capital improvements. That's not what's happening. We're asking you to agree with the plan. And so I do need this approved. I need a motion.
Any questions?
I make a motion to approve the CIP plan.
I was gonna say it was under new business, it's just later in the agenda, but we can do it now.
Well, yeah, but at the beginning of the meeting, that's what we decided was to, because.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I didn't know if the presentation and the approval had to come down, or.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
because she has
fine
to
with that.
wait, so.
Yeah, so sorry, and that was my fault for letting Jillian
That's
go late, but I have to leave earlier, so. So I'm asking to do the new business, K1
Okay,
right now.
Mhm.
Which is what the agenda was, is approved, is to move the new business up to my
Gotcha.
presentations.
There was, I heard a motion.
You seconded.
Oh, you did? Okay. I did.
Yeah, it was.
there's information
under-
presentation, and then there's new business, that's
Yeah,
why I was
okay.
trying to correlate and make sure
All
they're
right,
together.
well, good. Let's
Yep.
let's have a roll call vote, please. That was,
Dorney,
Aye.
Brevant. Aye. D'Angelo,
Aye.
Arms is absent, Flintoff, absent, Carrie,
aye,
Gable.
Alright,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you.
Okay, so we can talk about the budget. I'm still, do you all have the budget?
mm-hmm,
Okay, so if you wanna go through it line by line, we can, or I can just, discuss this in summary. What do you wanna do?
What was it, H4?
Barb, yes, H4, which would also go along with A2.
So overall, it's a 3.94, so 4% increase in revenues. Overall, and it's a 4% just under increase in appropriations. And this is a tight budget. In other words, these numbers have been gone over by Woodhill's staff, myself, engineering, operations. We talked about it at the staff committee, so these are pretty well vetted numbers. We're pretty comfortable with them. The one thing I should point out in the budget is that this includes an increase to the board compensation. And I did that as an executive decision. And so please let me make my pitch as to why I put that in there. So I have been involved in Loch Alpine since 2023. Looking for I thought I did a cover sheet on the
You did.
budget.
It's right before the budget.
Jake, I can't find my cover sheet. Okay, so, all right, you have the cover sheet. I'll try and remember what's in there.
You wanna?
You want mine?
No, that's okay. I'm just gonna make, everything else is pretty standard, but I'm gonna make my pitch for board compensation. So, LASA is a small, subset of everything that Webster has to do and everything that SIO has to do. However, it needs some serious attention, right? So we need some serious attention. We need some consistent meetings. We have a number of new people on the board who don't know anything about water and sewer. We have a couple of extremely knowledgeable people on the board who know a lot about water and sewer. I think that you should have more operations meetings and request that your knowledgeable people come and make some presentations, right? And that's a lot to ask of volunteers. It's too much. We don't get the turnout. I mean, I've been dealing with government for a long time. A stipend is not a lot, $100 for a day, considering everything you have to read, what you have to do to prepare to be here. This is not a lot. And so I did step up the budget to $100 for board members, $125 for the chair. And I budgeted a meeting a month for ops. which is not the same thing as the staff meetings, right? So we were having some staff meetings and we need to have those. We used to have them with the prior chair. Only he was talking to us more individually than together, right? And so I requested that Jillian convert the staff meetings to where we're all talking to each other at the same time because it makes more sense. And in point of fact, having Andrea in those was extremely helpful because it kept us moving, right? So things have been not moving as fast as they could have been moving. And so I am increasing the budget. I do think $100 is reasonable considering all of the information you have to deal with. And I do think that if the ops committee, I wanted to give them the option to say that they were gonna meet monthly, just to step up their knowledge base here. And $25 extra for the board is probably not sufficient, but that's all I budgeted for you, Jillian. So, cause it's a lot of work to get all this together. And to manage this. This is a lot to manage. So that's my pitch for the budget, for the board compensation. I know that the board hasn't been compensated since the end of 23. SIO was supposed to take that over. I don't really understand what the issue is there. However, I'm also gonna throw a request out to the Webster people that you check with your staff and see if they can. It's really nothing to add this into payroll, right? To get the 7 members. So we canceled, it's really not. I mean, we give the people, then it just runs with all the rest of your payroll, right? It's just they only get paid quarter. Right? But LASA was paying the maintenance fee to BSNA, paying for staff time, paying for all, to pay 7 people 4 times a year. It makes no sense, right? I need one of these township boards to step up to the table. And I thought SIA was gonna do it and they've dropped the ball.
Well,
So I really need somebody to do it. We can't keep having, we're gonna end up with an audit point.
Yeah, if you give us what, like the people, the I-9s, the W-4s, we'll
Give it all
take
to
care
you.
of it. And
So it is the law that as a board member, you are required to be paid as an employee. So if I could just have written AP checks, this wouldn't have been an issue, right? But we are required to pay boards and commissions as employees. And thank you so much. I will get everything together for you.
well, wait a minute. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the LASA board at the time had agreed that SIO would
Do
this
it.
is after Jessica had brought it to the LASA board.
Yeah, Jessica kind of stepped in and helped me say this is a
Yes.
silly waste of money for LASA.
Absolutely. And then she brought it to the SIO board and the SIO board approved. So that's where we are and it hasn't happened, but the next, on the 23rd, we do have payroll on the agenda.
Okay, so you guys can talk about it then, but if you're
That's-
willing to do it, I don't know what the holdup is, but well, thank you for stepping in if we can't get this going, right? We can't just keep pushing this off.
Or whatever we
That's
choose.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that.
Okay, that's great. So that is my pitch for the budget. And I'm asking you to approve the budget, right? If you end up not voting, I think you need to put the compensation on your next agenda. If you end up not voting for that, then that amount of the budget just doesn't get used. But I am still asking you to approve the budget with that dollar figure in there.
Colleen, we did talk about the valve turning and the sewer cleaning, which we have asked F&B for a quote on those and we're still waiting. It has to go through a department. But this budget does not reflect that and not even a ballpark. I don't even know if you would.
So Jake, we have a repair and maintenance budget that they said this could come out of, right? In the water and sewer.
Yes, I believe there's about 50,000 that could be moved from one place to another. That's what we had talked about in the meeting, is we accounted for 50,000 again, just because this last year there was a one quote for 63,000. That was it just happened, had to be done. So we accounted for 50,000 just in case something like that came up. We don't think that it will, so if it needs to be taken from that account, it can be moved.
So F&B was comfortable that the 50 would cover the extra valve turning.
Okay.
And we've covered the CCTV for the sewer lines in capital.
Okay, so that's, yes, that's, just so the board is.
Yeah.
Informed.
Yeah, so when the valve cleaning bid comes through, that, we should be able to cover that in the
Okay.
budget.
As I show 48,000 in water for repairs and maintenance, 19,000 in sewer.
Yeah. Because the sewer, the big amount is in the capital plan, right? Because we were concerned, Andrea was concerned it was getting lost in the shuffle. So she called it out as a separate line item. To which we all agreed. So, if there are any questions on the budget, I can answer them. Otherwise but I do need the budget approved.
Any questions?
I make a motion to approve the budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Or roll call, please?
Dorney,
Aye.
Brevant,
Aye.
D'Angelo,
Aye.
Harms absent, Flintoff absent, Carrie,
Aye.
Gable.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we have the budget approved and we have the capital plan approved. So now we need to talk about how are you gonna pay for these expenditures, right? And that brings us to our rate review. And so you do not have a copy of this, so you're gonna have to look at my screen.
Okay.
All right, so you're gonna have to, everybody's gonna have to look, and why is that gray thing there, Ryan?
I don't know. Can you try and hit escape?
Oh, wait. If I move this up. Jake, do you know how I can get out of seeing these little things on the side?
Hit escape. Key real quick.
How do I get out of this?
Just hit that.
Oh, this, I
That-
can minimize that.
Minimize that, that might make it go away. At least makes it better.
I'll move
Oh, there
up.
you go, that worked.
Close enough.
Okay, yay. Okay, so this is the budget you just approved, right?
Right?
Jake, can you do me a favor and sit up here and move the presentation forward, because I need to stand up and talk. Okay, so this is the budget we just approved, right? And, you'll see that the sewer revenue is separate from the water revenue. And we have $38,000 in investments, for which you can thank Woodhill. Because we got all your idle cash moved. And then we have your appropriations, and so we have this general and administrative piece. And then you have sewer specific costs and water specific costs. The general and administrative piece is just split 50-50 between sewer and water when we try and recover our costs. Okay, so go ahead, Jake. Okay, we can go through the capital. Okay, so here's how we figure out what our cost recovery is. The cost recovery is what we need to bill your customers in order to pay for everything we have to do. So your operating budget, including depreciation, because remember I told you at the minimum I need depreciation. So your operating budget that you approved is $730,000. Then we say, well, we have some non-rate revenue that can offset that. And included in this non-rate revenue is the 38,000 of investment income. It is also $9,000 of penalty and interest, right? For people who pay late, we're charging you a penalty and interest, and the 9,000 is actually a conservative amount. So we say, okay, here's what we need to pay for the operating budget. Here's the non-rate revenue that will help offset that. Now, what you don't see and what confuses a lot of people is that in the budget, it doesn't include the principal payment. Because the principal payment is not an expense, it's a reduction of a liability. So the interest is part of this 730, but the principal payment is not. And this is where SIO was missing the boat before, because it looks like you were adding to reserves, but in point of fact, you weren't recovering all your costs, right? your principal payment, you didn't have enough to cover your principal at the bottom. So not only do we need the 730, we're getting to reduce that by 47,000. We need to pay the debt principal. Okay, and then, but now we're saying, we are gonna still use reserves to cover some of this 730,000. We are not gonna fully get our depreciation this year. So that means our rates have to bring in $904,000 for the year. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, well done, Jake. It's very easy to understand. All right. Does that have the next one?
No, I think it's this one.
Okay, so Ray, Jake, do you wanna walk us through this? Because this is part of how we decide how we're gonna get the rates.
Yeah, so the rates are based off of a MEU. And an MEU is assigned to all average meter users. So this could be commercial, educational, or large residential properties with larger meters. And they are charged proportionally to the size of the meter installed. So a 5/8 or 3/4 inch residential customer would be charged an MEU of 1. Whereas a commercial customer where they have an 8-inch meter would have an MEU of 80.
So that's kind of an overview of how meter equivalents are, but in point of fact, LASA only has residential, right? But it's just the theory there, right?
Sure, whether.
Okay, so go ahead.
So right here, on the table is the amount of MEU users throughout the fiscal years from 23 all the way to 25. So there was, you can see a small dip in fiscal year 2024. And we are back just about 1 under in 2025.
So fairly consistent. So we are using this number for our rates, right? So some of the rates are gonna be divided by how many users we have. Okay, go ahead.
And then this is a usage history through those MEUs. So for the units of sewage, it has slowly gone down from 23 to 24. It was a 5% down in usage.
So I'm gonna stop you for 1 minute, Jake. So we need to know how many users we have, which we've determined. We also bill you based on how much water you use. And we have to know approximately how much water is gonna be used, so we know what each unit is gonna cost. And each unit is worth 1,000 gallons. And so our problem is that the usage is going down. Well, we still have to maintain the same system. I mean, the differential is just in what we spend on chemicals to treat the water, but we still have to maintain the whole system. So when usage goes down, rates have to go up, right? Because we have less that we're selling, but we still need almost the same amount of money to come in. Okay, so go ahead, Jake. So that's sewer, right?
Yes, and then water from 23 to 24 only fell 1%, same following into 25. We believe it's going to have a 0% change.
Of the average.
Of the
So-
average,
So we're
yes.
proposing, what we are proposing to use is the 2-year average with 0 change. Right, so we're just gonna take the 2-year average for our rates. And quite often we downsize that, right? We say, well, maybe we're only gonna take 99% of the average. In this case, we're taking the whole average because we're feeling pretty confident with your meters now. We just had this huge project that we'll talk about later. So these are 2 critical pieces for us to determine how much the rates are gonna be, right? What do we expect to sell? And how many users do we have? Okay, so you wanna go to the next one, Jake?
Colleen, I have a question. LASA, they have sprinkler meters.
Yes, sprinkler in that analysis is counted in the water.
Okay.
So here's the census meter replacement. Is Michael on the line?
He wasn't, but I can look and see if he is.
Yeah, that's okay. So this was a huge problem that was resolved this year that we're just finishing, is that we had, what were there? There were 83 census meters that were failing, right? So even our usage last year, when I was trying to do these rates in the budget, I'm like, geez, these things are just, they're, 83 out of 500 is a huge percentage. How do I even know how accurate this stuff is? And so Woodhill really pushed to get this project moving. It was a bit of money, but it was well worth it. So now he's saying that I think there's still 20 left, right? But 20 from 83 is quite a significant improvement. And so it was also a lot of work on your staff, because they would run an estimate, then the users would call and say that's not the right read. Then you'd send a revised bill. I mean, the whole thing was just was really quite, oh, here's Michael. Hi, Michael. Go, Michael, can you go? I'm sorry, we were looking for you.
I apologize, my calendar was off and I really apologize. Yeah, this is
Hey,
working
no,
out
perfect
great.
timing.
Yes, I saw my slide pop up here. Everything's working great. The Metron meters are doing exactly what we wanted them to do. And we just want to get those other last 20 installed as soon as possible. F&V is doing 1 or 2 a week as time allows, and that's the plan at the moment.
But your big bulk, you outsourced, right? 'Cause,
Yes, we used Vepo metering to install them, and they did a great job as well. That was last December.
So as long as we've got Michael on the line here, because he has really been deep in the weeds on trying to get this resolved for LASAR, are there any questions on how these meters and reads are working?
Colleen, so with, the failing meters last year, would that have, an effect on the water usage, you said from 23, 24, and 25? The water, well, not so much the sewer, but the water, I guess it would be.
It's hard to guess if whether you were estimating over or under, but it makes sense that it would divert from what your true number would be, with all those estimated,
So Michael, when
Meters.
do you think you had a relatively decent read and got to correct all that stuff?
Well, the January through March billing cycle went very well, and that dropped us from 80 some estimated read accounts to 24. So and I can get reads anytime I want for the Metron meters. And I agree with Andrea. When we were estimating, we were having a best guess on about 20% of the meters. So we were never really dialed into exactly the usage. So that would,
So he's caught those up in this
Yeah.
last one. So that's why when we did the history, we said, okay, well, he trued everybody up in this last one.
correct.
So our history for 2025, we think is pretty good. It might actually have some reduction or carryover from 24, but we're just taking the average and saying, okay, that's what we're running with.
We talked about this the other day, Michael. Are you planning on is someone planning on replacing the rest of the census meters at some point? And how old are the remaining meters?
The
Census.
first answer is no. The second
Okay.
answer is they're about 5 years old.
Oh, okay.
and they're supposed to last about 10 years.
Yeah, so there's no plan at the moment. And just real quick, the problem with these meters is and primarily the dual transmitter meters, the batteries fail. And they're integrated batteries and you can't just swap out the battery. And so you have to replace the meter.
Yeah, SiO had one of our largest customers move down to a Metron meter from a 16-year-old, I believe, census meter.
Yeah.
And we received 10% additional usage went through the meter.
Well, that's good. And that was the case where the meter itself was actually not registering enough water.
Mhm.
These meters, when we read them manually, they're accurate. We just
Got
can't get a radio read.
Got it.
And they have, and the other part is you have to go inside the house to read the meter. They don't have a touch pad on the
Yeah,
outside.
that's terrible.
So it's a cascading failure problem, all starting with that battery failure. So at the moment, we have replaced, I believe, all the dual transmitter batteries. So the problem has slowed down considerably as part of the failure. So nothing like we had last year. So we're in a much better place.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Michael? Cause that's great, cause I can't answer any of those. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about your rate structure. So your customers have three billing components, right? They have a ready to serve charge, which is basically the capacity where I talked about if everybody left and nobody was, everybody went to Florida, we'd still have to pay for all this infrastructure. We'd still have to maintain everything. So the ready to serve is a flat charge. Basically, it's what we're billing you every quarter, whether you're here using water or not. Then we have a capital and debt service charge. Again, that's a flat charge. We're gonna bill you whether you're here using water or not. And this is the one where we're talking about is helping fund the capital improvement plan. Then we have a commodity charge. A commodity charge is based on the actual usage. So these two are a flat charge. They're based on your MEUs. So I'm gonna take what we need, divide it by 538 people and come up with, this is the rate. The commodity charge is based on usage. We're gonna take the amount we need to recover from the commodity charge, divided by the usage we expect to get, and that's your rate. I mean, it's pretty simple math here, right? We just take which ones are flat fees, divided by the number of your users. Which ones are based on commodity charge, divided by what we expect we're gonna sell. And that's how we get to our rate. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so here's our cost recovery allocations for water and for sewer, right? So we take what the budget is. So here's what the debt cost is. It's 125,000 for sewer, 183,500 for water. We take what the operating costs are. It's 202 for water, 282 for sewer. We take what our capital replacement is. It's 79,000 for water, 31,000 for sewer. And we come up with, here's the total that we've got to recover. So we need to recover $903,000. And these are the rates that we get to cover $903,000. Go back a couple screens. Back, yeah, right here. No, back. Right here. So we're gonna recover 903. This is all just rounding problems. We needed to recover 904. Okay, all right, move forward then. Yeah, go. Here's your recommended rates. So it is a 7% increase in water. It is a 6% increase in sewer. So $2.51 every quarter. $1.67 every quarter for water. For the commodity rates, it's a 5% increase. It's 23 cents for every 1,000 gallons, right? So every 1,000 gallons, every time we bill you a unit, it's 1,000 gallons. So it's 23 cents for water, 27 cents for sewer. And then for the debt, it's another $5.72 a quarter, the debt and asset for water, $3.44 for sewer. All told, what we're looking at is another $13.34 a quarter for the flat fees, and we're looking at 50 cents more for the usage. And then Michael gave us the average number of units used per year by your homeowners, right, is 15. So a homeowner is it's gonna cost them basically $60.86 a year to accomplish these costs. Is that our last slide? Okay, so you can put that one back up. Okay, and we do need the board to approve these. These rates would be effective July 1. Thanks, Jake. The bills that go out in July, this July, so Michael is currently still doing your bills for you. The bills that go out in July are actually based on usage through June. Those will be at the old rates. Right? So these rates, you would adopt them now. They will be effective July 1, which means your customers won't see them until, I'm assuming maybe September. September, October, right? So they have plenty of time to know this is coming, right? But what Michael needs to do is be able to put this on his bills. To inform your customers what they're gonna see in the next billing cycle, which is why we need this adopted or declined. I mean, you don't have to increase rates, right? We have plenty of boards who don't increase rates, which was the previous LASA board, didn't increase rates for 6 or 7 years, so. But we are really trying to move you forward financially in a better position operationally. We're trying to get all the staff talking together. It was very difficult to get anything done for me personally, even here last year, just to try and find somebody to, having to chase people down. So I really appreciated being able to jump into a staff meeting and say, okay, everybody needs to give us what we need. So. Are there any questions? Because I just went through a lot. But I'm a good teacher, aren't I?
Oh,
Yes, you
good.
are.
But this doesn't, if we increase the rates for these folks. And all it does is cover depreciation. It isn't putting anything extra aside for this price increase you expect.
It is not. It is not. So thank you for asking that question. We are really kind of viewing this as several stages, right? Your customers did not receive a rate increase for 6 or 7 years. And the rates they were paying were not covering the cost. For us to just hit them all at once would be really hard to handle on anybody's budget. So last year, we did not recover 90,000, right? That we kind of, okay. This year, it's 39,000. Next year, whoever does your rates, you need to put yourself in at least your minimum cost recovery of depreciation. So this is a slow step, right? I mean, we just can't come in and say, geez, financially, was anybody really, explaining this to the board before? So your point is well taken. It's a purposeful decision to not fully cover it. We are going to be leaning on the fact that the debt will be paid off, right? So part of what's going on is your customers are paying for debt as well. So it's like this, right? It's a catch-22, but.
I just wonder when you reach the point where you're actually putting aside some money to cover this gap between depreciation and replacement cost.
So we're gonna start putting it aside, in 2029.
29, okay. And in the meantime, things continue to break down.
Well, in the meantime, we've, Ted has really, worked with your ops team and vetted through the capital, right? So we're hoping we're dealing with this. Stable, and then Andrea's been kind of focused on required operating processes, so the CCTV. So I don't think things are gonna keep breaking down that we can't afford, right? We feel that we are now moving in a positive direction here. But money is still, it's tough. So come 2029, right, that's where we're gonna be able to start putting a little bit more aside. And the whole point is that we wanna get to 2035 where they need some stuff and not have to say, oh my gosh, now you got a $500,000 a year debt payment and we're gonna raise your rates, 40% so we can cover that. Like, that's not fair to them, right? So we need to be able to say, we're gonna put ourselves in a position of borrowing a reasonable sum of money, right? That isn't going to overburden your customers. I mean, that is what water and sewer is all about. It is a constant juggling act, right? I mean, these are extremely expensive assets. This isn't like police where, oh, the car went bad, give me another 35,000. Water and sewer and you don't see it, you have to manage water and sewer well, which is yet another pitch for the fact that I'm saying we need the board to meet more often and we need to compensate them, right? We need to take this new board and kind of turn this, right? So that we've got some momentum going in the right direction, which we kind of lost when, you know, your prior president, there was nobody to take his place, right? So I think things were going, and then like a couple of years before he was leaving, you know, he just didn't have time. And so now we need to just kind of stay on track, right? So. Okay, I need a motion to approve or not approve rates.
I make a motion to approve the rates.
I'll second.
Get that, Barb?
Dorn, D'Angelo.
Yeah. Could you, call, roll call, please? Vote.
Dorney,
Aye.
Brevant,
Aye.
D'Angelo,
Aye.
Harms absent, Flintoff absent, Carrie,
Aye.
Yeaple.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do think it's an affordable, you know, it's like $60 and $61, and that's a little bit on the usage. So I do think that we've managed to pull this in at an affordable price point. So I'm actually very pleased about it. Okay, do we mind, could I jump into one other one, which is the banking, because that's
Yes,
also.
please. Yes.
So we have to have 2 signers on the bank, like we just can't operate. Right now Jessica's the only one, we lost our previous signer. So, I know that it's nice to have somebody from either township, but it's not required, right? And we do have a treasurer here on your board, so it would, you know, he's already having to do all this stuff anyway, so we might as well just throw this little piece on. Sorry, Ryan, I'm volunteering.
I already have a Flagstar and Class Act access for other SIO accounts.
Yeah, so.
So it's a lot easier to add
Yeah.
meters and.
So Woodhill, we do not touch money, right? So we just don't touch it, right? Because we are part of your control, that the money is going and the expenses are going where they are supposed to go, so we don't touch it. Which means we need somebody to do something like, we've got a Flagstar savings account with $20 in it. That just, you know, they paid us a little bit, and we need somebody to just go close that account and move it. Jessica did just move some money into Michigan Class for us, but it's hard to ask her. We'd like to be a little bit more aggressive on how fast we move money in and out of Michigan Class, right? And so if we can just email Ryan right when he's doing SIOS, he could jump in and do ours.
But I thought I was on an account. Barb, remember, with the previous board?
I don't think so.
Because I'm on Michigan Class. I signed something to be on some account. Cause I'm getting the statement notifications.
Oh, are you on Michigan Class? I guess I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure you're not on
Back on
Flagstar.
the minute, please.
Regardless, you're gonna have to go to the bank, sign the cards, right? Michigan Class, you don't have to do that. We can do it all electronically, but Flagstar, you have to go to the bank, sign the card.
Unless you work with a government official like I do, and then it's all through.
Oh, well, DocuSign. Oh, that's interesting.
Because I have a government officer from Flagstar.
Flagstar?
No, not on Flagstar. I thought it was Michigan Class.
You might be. It doesn't matter. I just assume you have
I
Ryan.
don't
I
have,
don't wanna be emailing 2 different people.
Right, so. we
I
have
don't
to
have
look
dogs
at
in this
that.
fight one way or.
It almost
I'll
doesn't
do it.
matter.
I
If
won't
you're on,
do
great.
Doesn't matter to
You
me.
can have as many people on Michigan Class as we want.
Yeah.
Right, you can have more than 2 signers, but we need at least 2 signers, and we don't have 2 signers on Flagstar right now.
Okay, so just.
So I'm looking for a motion to appoint an additional signer. And
I'm getting you back.
I know.
if Webster is not concerned that it would be all SIO people, I mean, Woodhill is fine with it.
I think I'm here in the office 5 days a week, so it'd probably be easy.
Yeah, that's how we feel.
Okay, Tony, go ahead and nominate him.
I nominate you to be an additional signer.
I'll try it.
I'll second.
Sounds good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So the fact that you've got a relationship at Flagstar, is it Yvonne over there?
Yeah,
Okay, that would be great. See what she can do to get you on that account. She's probably gonna have to have Jessica sign it.
it's fine.
And then,
We did this a few months, about 6 months ago.
yeah,
We made-
yeah. And then if Jillian or both Jessica's definitely on Michigan class. I don't really know if you are.
I can add as
You
many
can
people
worry
as I
about it.
want, it really doesn't matter. to
Yeah,
me.
no, let's get you on Michigan class. So Jessica can help you with
Yeah,
that.
and I can have Jeff help me too if we want.
Do we need I need somebody to approve that.
I am signing the checks with Jessica. So Michael, are you still on?
Yeah,
Well,
that's right.
You-
That's
For the record, the bank doesn't often look
That's
at who
right.
signs the checks.
well, for the record, the bank doesn't care about the second signature. The second signature is just a internal control. But the bank only cares about the first signature.
Julian and Jessica are signing checks.
Yeah. Michael,
No, my point is,
I'm
it
here.
doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you're a signer.
Yep.
The
agreed.
bank does not care about the second signer. The
Yeah.
second signer is just viewed as an internal control.
It could be
All the
Joe
bank
Schmo.
hears is the first signer. Yeah, it could be anybody. So it doesn't mean that you're actually authorized to pull. But in any case, can you find out, Ryan, when you go there, who the signers are?
Sure.
Let's find out. And then find out if Jillian's on Michigan class. If she signed some paperwork, she probably is.
been a
Which
while,
is
so-
fine, yeah. But it's a pain to have to log in and do it, so if Brian's already doing that stuff, this is easier. Did they vote on that?
Yeah, yes, we did. Didn't we?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Voice vote, you did.
yeah,
Great,
all of us agree.
okay,
Yeah.
if nobody has any questions, Jillian, thank you so much for getting me out of here. I'm going to take my leave.
Yeah,
Very
thank
nice to
you.
meet you all. It's
Great presentation.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing here.
Kevin, do you need,
And Kevin, thank you for waiting.
Yeah.
I jumped ahead of you. I saw you were first on the agenda, but.
I don't have anything digital.
okay, that's what we needed to know for Zoom, but, yes, go ahead. You've already provided that to me.
Yeah.
And I did.
These are extra tabs.
I think I did upload it in here too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you
it's
got
in
it,
there.
okay. Yeah. There's an extra one.
I need, do you have, I need one for Jess.
Did you, should we stand certain place, or does it matter?
Please feel
I
comfortable.
unfortunately can't move the cameras. I already tried multiple times and they don't want to cooperate, so
Sure.
sorry.
It'd be better if I
Wanna sit
stand
where-
like over here.
Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna sit
kick
down and
Colleen
see
out of
what
her
you do.
chair.
Oh, yeah, I'm moving. You get to have my seat, hot seat.
Okay.
I'll get out of your way here. Okay. Thanks again, Jillian, for getting me
Thank you.
in and out. I really,
Thank God,
Jake,
you guys,
are you-
love your help.
have a good night. Bye.
Yeah.
Did you follow everything?
Nice job, yes.
Oh, I'm so happy. Rates are complicated.
Well, except you raise your rates, but.
Yeah, that's all right.
And
So I'll just raise our rates too and I'm.
Scio raised our rates 40% last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do it for 7 or 8 years either.
Okay.
So,
Hi, Kevin.
how you doing? I brought this, we already had gone through like 2 weeks ago-ish. When I was out, but I just wanted to go do a review, like I said, with the new board, people just to go through what coverage is currently in place and address any questions you have. And so this is really just in regards to what's currently in place for Loch Alpine. So with this proposal here, the first page, we can skip over that. That's just basically feature additional products if there's things that you're looking for or need. On page 2 of this proposal, the program that you're currently in, it is called, the official title is the Michigan Township Participating Plan. That's the title of the program. It's for Michigan municipalities. So it's designed for like I said, townships, cities, villages, fire authorities, libraries, anything that's municipal related would go in this program. On this page, some of the highlights of the program, you have some benefits. There's insurance, but then being in the program, you have some member benefits. Towards the bottom of the list there, you can see the risk reduction program. There are certain things, there's online resources that's available on the website that you can access. You do have to have a login for that. Of course, like everything else, you have to get a login. But those things, if you need help getting that, it's kind of a self-serve. You go in, you send an email, they verify that you're a member, and then you get your login information. But if you have issues, problems, then let us know. But the other things, there is a grant program through this program, so you do have access to grants that are available. Twice a year, you can apply for a grant. You can get up to 5,000. Grants would go towards anything that is risk reduction, so it would help reduce property or liability exposure for the authority. And then there's a scholarship program, so if you are looking at trainings, there is funds available that will go towards any certifications, trainings that potentially you're looking at in the future. And the scholarship program, that's kind of a first come, first serve. Every year, they budget so much for it, so apply early to get access to those funds. But any questions on those items?
So the grants, you said 2 times a year, and when's the deadline? for those?
Twice a year, so there's a 45-day window for each grant. The next one coming up starts August, goes to the middle of September. So there's a fall grant cycle, and then there's the other grant starts February, it goes February to March 15th. So kind of a spring and fall are those timeframes for the grant. And if you get one that doesn't, remove you from the list for the next one, you can get multiple grants in a row. There's no limitation. They will say if you have received one already, it might bump you down the list, but again, it depends on how many submissions we get. And, so I've seen entities receive multiple grants, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. On page 4, this goes over the coverage itself. So section 1, we talk about general liability. And for time wise, I'm gonna kind of go quickly through this, but if there's something you see and you want to stop me, please stop and ask. But general liability, your current limits of coverage, you have $3 million per occurrence. And then the policy maximum is unlimited. There's no cap on how many claims you have, but each individual claim is capped at 3 million. General liability provides coverage for A, B, and C, bodily injury, personal injury, property damage. You do have a sewer backup limit included under liability. That limit is at 100,000 per occurrence. That 100,000 is also the maximum in the policy. That's the most that is included in the policy for sewer backup, and this would be sewer backup liability situations. Under additionally named, we have 5 categories. So the LASA itself is the named insured, and then we have additional categories that are included here. The first is any government official, so any member of the governing body. So board members are included if you are named in a lawsuit. Number 2 there is any other boards or commissions. So if you set up a temporary or subcommittee or whatever, those members would be included. Elected and appointed officials, if we had anybody specifically elected or appointed, they're included. Employees, so if we have any employees, and then volunteers would also be included. With volunteers, it's typically they've received some type of, you've appointed them as a volunteer, you've set them as a volunteer, and they've got some authority. Under the additionally included, like I said, there's nothing too crazy exciting. They're kind of standard language for your general liability. Any questions on? That's good. On page 5, section 2 is public officials liability. This is our wrongful acts. Errors and omissions would be another term for this section. This provides coverage for if we violate someone's civil rights, if we're discriminate against somebody, if we get a lawsuit against us for, actions, decisions we've made. Again, it's 3 million per occurrence. There's no cap on how many claims throughout the year. There's no policy maximum. Included under that limit is your employment practices. So if you have any, employment related, hiring, firing, harassment claims, things like that, those would all be included at the full 3 million there. So, private property use doesn't really apply. That's more land use, in a township situation. The non-monetary defense, we do have 100,000 limit there. With non-monetary be if someone, say, filed a suit, they weren't happy with the decision we made, but they're not looking for any, pain and suffering, not looking for a judgment against us. They just want to take us to court and have the court, overrule whatever our decision was. So non-monetary, there we're talking about basically just paying the cost of the attorney in those situations. And then section 3 at the bottom of the page, there's auto liability. We do include auto liability. This would be if any employee, board member, if you're traveling on behalf of the authority, for whatever, coming to a meeting, going to a training, things like that, you do have some liability, auto liability exposure. Your own personal policies are primary, but this becomes excess over your personal auto policies. Then on page 6, we get into the property section here. So building and contents. There is a schedule. The very last page will break these numbers down and shows you, what properties we have listed. But the total limit, if you added everything up, we're at 8.3, just over 8.3 million of property. So that's your offices, pumping stations, treatment facilities, water tower, all of those locations. If we add everything up, we're at deductible currently is at 1,000 for your property. Section 5, outdoor and portable. In the insurance world, this is referred to as inland marine. We identify it as outdoor and portable because, in my opinion, it makes more sense. It's just additional equipment, things that you have. For example, you have a generator that, again, it's not a building, it's not a structure, it's not a vehicle. It goes into the inland marine, which is kind of the catch-all limit there. So that is for those items. If you had, fencing, signs, lighting, standalone lighting, things like that, that's all types of items that would go under this section. Other tools and equipment you might have. Then we have electronic and data processing equipment. That's 100,000 limit. That is just a standard flat limit. We do not schedule the electronics. But any owned electronics, whether it's a computer, laptop, tablet, things like that, they would be covered under the policy regardless of where they're at. If it's owned by the authority, it's covered. If somebody took a laptop home and something happens there, it's still covered under this policy. And then the last section on this page is valuable papers and records. That limit of 250 pays if we had to hire somebody to try and get our information back. Let's say something happened with the server and we lost all the records of all of the, billings or something along those lines. We would hire somebody to come in and try and get that information back or recreate that information. And then on page 7, we have crime and bonds. So crime would be someone outside the authority breaks in, steals funds, or if we're going to make a deposit, someone's robs you on the way to the bank, that 100,000 covers the cash money that you have, or you might have access on hand, I should say, replaces those funds. And then the bond would cover internal funds that you have, if anybody has access to. There's a blanket limit of 100,000. So everyone has at least 100,000. And then we do have position limits there that would be in addition to that 100,000. And those position limits, if you wanted to adjust those, change them, we can. We just include the 5 automatically at 10,000 there. And then the last page before the schedule, we do include, this is an accident policy on the board itself. So workers' compensation, typically with a board, if it's been volunteer, you're not, receiving, money that way. Being paid, workers' compensation would be another, avenue of lost wages, but typically with a board, it's not day-to-day, wages that you're losing, you're still in a board position, as long as you're attending meetings, you're still getting those, per diems or whatever. But this is just an additional policy that provides coverage for, it's a 24-hour policy, provides on duty and off duty. So if you are doing something authority related, the on duty limits would apply. If it's not authority related, the off duty limits would apply. So it is 24/7 policy. And this accident policy is injury only, meaning it had to be like a car accident or you fall off a roof or something like that. It wouldn't be considered an illness. So like a heart attack, those types of things would not be covered under this policy. But there's death benefits, impairment benefits, the additional benefits there. And then you can see the supplemental benefits, those pay in conjunction with something above. Like I said, if there's a death, there's burial benefits. If there's an impairment, then there's home alterations, vehicle alteration benefits that can be paid out.
Okay, I have a question about that. So what's the safety belt and airbag ones?
So with those, if there is a death, and if you had your seatbelt on and your vehicle has an airbag, those will pay in addition to. Yep, those add up.
So if I'm understanding this right,
Yeah, it
this
does-
is very morbid, but if you're driving your car, not doing anything for LASA, and you flew out your window while wearing your seatbelt, you would still get $50,000.
Sorry. Yeah,
Did my hypothetical question make sense?
well, I didn't hear.
Sorry, so
Yeah.
it says off duty and on duty,
Yes,
and there's the seatbelt one that says $50,000. So you're saying that if you're driving your car down I-94 on Saturday, not doing anything for LASA, and you fly out the windshield for one reason while wearing your seatbelt, this would still give us $50,000.
well, yeah.
Would it give LASA $50,000 or
No.
would it give the person
It
$50,000?
go to your beneficiary.
Cause you have to be dead.
Yeah, so you're not gonna receive it, but your beneficiary would. But that benefit would be, and then if you had the seatbelt and an airbag, it'd pay in addition to those. And again, yes, if it's unrelated to loss of business, the off-duty limits apply.
Okay, very good.
So,
To see the actuarial table for how often that happens, but anyways.
Somebody thought of it.
yeah, it actually, I mean, we have paid on the off-duty benefit.
Oh.
I would say within the last 6 years, we did have it was a township trustee, that's way in a car accident, so. But yeah. And it was an off-duty benefit. They actually weren't even in Michigan when it happened. And then the last page then, again, is the schedule of the properties with the contents, the inland marine items there. And then we do list additional insureds, so we specifically add the 2 townships as additional insureds in the policy. So if something were to happen, if we did get a lawsuit or something like that, and in regards to what LASA is providing, if, Scioto or Webster get named, this policy is going to respond for the townships.
Even though SIO has its own insurance and Webster.
Yeah, I mean, those insurance still may respond, but that's the idea of the additional insured. This, again, if it's being sued for something involving what we're providing for the townships, our policy is gonna be first in line. Each township has their own insurance, and those could respond as well. But like I said, if this policy handles everything for everyone involved, then we wouldn't need to hit the other policies.
And Kevin, has this policy changed from last year?
No, it really hasn't changed. I mean, typically the changes that we'll see on this is just if we have any property changes. I will say, so not necessarily we've added or deleted properties, property values have been adjusted. We do apply inflation. But as far as changing any coverage types or adding, removing, I think we haven't made any changes to it since last year, no.
How long has Lassa been with Decker?
Lassa has been with Decker at least 26 years, I believe.
But
I'll
the-
say, that's as long as I've been around, maybe longer than that, but, that's how long I've been around.
No, the price has changed though.
Yeah, yep, so the renewal this year, it was an 8.6% increase over last year. And that's, part of that is those property values increasing, but it's in general, we've just seen increases in the, commercial insurance.
And in residential and on an auto.
Yeah,
It's just right across the board.
I would say for our municipal business, we're averaging this year between 12 and 15, that's kind of our average, so this is under that, you know, not that it makes it better, because it's still an 8.6% increase. But it is under what we've seen on a lot of renewals. But yes, it did increase from last year.
Any questions for Kevin?
I had one. So, so the power plan people pick the underwriter, is that how that works?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like everybody, but that, I kind of noticed this one's the same as when you came to talk about Webster. So-
Yeah. So the power plan itself, the power plan is a municipal, it's a public entity that was created to, you know, a group of like interests, purchase insurance and share kind of the risk of that. So it's created under Public Act 138. But there's a 9-member board that sits on the power plant board that they determine who represents the program, who handles claims, who underwrites, administers, all those things. But I want to say in this area, the director is John Lazinski from Grass Lake Township. He's a supervisor there. So that's for this zone that you could fall into.
Okay, thanks.
So I would say with that, if you have concerns, issues, you want to talk to another township official, I could definitely get you his information, or, you know, if you're interested in that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions for me?
No, it's not. Well, we had the presentation and then later on under new business, maybe we could do the same and go ahead with a
I think so.
motion.
Well, I will move to renew our insurance policy. Insurance agents.
Where's the cost?
Oh, weird.
Yeah, where's the rate?
The-
It must be.
There was an invoice that, met last time. The renewal amount is $19,042.
I think I uploaded that under.
Under probably in
Before.
that
Yeah.
part under the action.
Yeah.
$43.
I'll second it.
Barb, roll call, please. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Dorney,
Aye.
Brabant,
Aye.
D'Angelo,
Aye.
Harms, absent, Flintoff, absent. Carrie,
Aye.
April.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
One note for the record, we just renewed that at $19,000 and adopted a budget earlier for $17,000 for insurance.
Really?
Oops.
I thought we. Over to.
Well, I
Just,
will say,
just sharing that one there.
Okay.
last year's amount was 17,500.
Gotcha.
That's where that came.
That's what I was looking for as we called the vote. I'm like, I saw the 17,000, it was
I thought I got that
17,000
over.
I adopted budget, so, well, big deal.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. Well, it looks like, oh, now we have, F and V report. They were not able to make it tonight, but, I talked with Brandon to have. He included a report that is more condensed than what he usually has in the past, because he was never asked to do that before. But it's,
He used to produce reports for,
like that,
yes, like that when he started,
when he started,
Yes, when he
okay, then
started.
kind of.
and they fell off the wagon.
Okay, well, I asked him to, if the board approves for operations to meet once a month, I'm asking Brandon to provide a monthly report. And then we could just move that, send it over to the board, or we can wait until the quarterly board meeting and just slam with them with 3 reports.
Okay.
But I think it's best that we just email it on.
Dave Navarre wanted monthly reports too.
Oh, good, okay. And I did talk with Brandon a bit before, and he said that there's an update to his, the pea gravel is in the works to be, what's his name? Steve, is it Steve?
Steve DeWolf.
Wolf, yep, he's on that. And then also the chlorine gas calibration, so the ball is rolling with that as well.
That's already been done.
No, you said there was something that still needs to be done, though. Okay, yeah, but those two, so those were the only updates, regarding the update to the report that he just provided.
Great. And that, did he give an estimate for hydrant flushing since he hasn't started yet? Since this is now summer, flushing instead of spring flushing.
I thought he said the operations,
In the operations meeting, he said he hadn't started yet.
thought he had mentioned in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can, yeah, pull it out.
We have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
He's
he's,
something to chase him on the staff meetings.
and then also we're waiting for as I said earlier, the quotes for valve turning and sewer.
We've
And
been waiting for a valve turning quote since the Prospect fire.
well, it's with Stephanie at F and V. He hasn't gotten back, and he's emailed a couple times. So. Anyways, it's in the works, and we'll keep on that.
Hey,
And then Ted provided a bit of, because he was doing the capital improvement plan, so he provided an update with about the water tower and the generators, which he provided at the operations meeting the other day, but I
Right.
included in here. And then Michael. Is Michael still on?
Michael, you still with us? I'll go up there, look at these, pop up in a second.
I need to type right here.
Michael has that.
Okay, well. So since we meet once a quarter, I asked Michael to provide, now I don't know how he was doing it in the past, but we have bills that have to be paid in between. We can't wait all the time for that quarter. So I asked him to whatever bills that we need, that we have paid, to provide a report. So he has one that's electronic fund that he's paid through, and then the other one is, paper.
yep,
So that's in here for everybody to view or to read for this quarter. If there's any questions regarding this, we'll just shoot him an email from the full board and he can respond. Any questions or comments for the? All right, then the last thing before public comments and adjournment, the biosolids contract renewal. So we talked about this at the operations committee.
We're gonna put that to bid
Yeah, so the bidding,
and in the fall.
in the fall, not
Right.
now, but whenever we meet in September.
September.
Yeah, but if we could just plan for this and have the approval for it, then Ted and Brandon can work on the bid.
So I saw, like, with respect to that, this is not the first I've heard about this PFAS and the biosolids, like getting in the farm fields. So,
Right.
like it was at the end, so.
Ted sent that over to me. I thought it would be interesting for everybody to read, because it's, yeah,
It's an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
The way that, state of Michigan has been handling this is through, basically harm reduction. They're trying to control at the source, reducing the amount of what's going on the land. When you basically end up, basically at the beginning of the year, you have to test your biosolids and turn it to the state. And based on your biosolids, you're allowed to land apply or not. If it's too high, you're not allowed to land apply. It goes to a landfill. And if it's a lower amount, in between, you might end up on a schedule, only being allowed to, apply a certain amount to a field. And if you're, near zero, then you get to apply as much as you want. It's kind of like the metal schedule that's already in place. They modeled it on the metal schedule that's in the Clean Water Act. And a lot of other states are doing different things. There really isn't consensus on what to do. I've been to conferences where literally we have one set of scientists saying PFAS doesn't bioaccumulate, and other scientists going, it at this one farm, it like went nuts and it's everywhere. And nothing's solved about PFAS right now. The science just isn't there yet. It's just keeps moving along, and hopefully we'll get better as we move along.
I saw one of these like that without microplastics too.
Microplastics is another huge issue that's sitting on the horizon, not to mention pharmaceuticals. Because pharmaceuticals, there is no way to reduce pharmaceuticals at a wastewater treatment plant. There's no way to reduce microplastics at a wastewater treatment plant. There is no way to reduce PFAS at a wastewater treatment plant. You end up installing special units. Although for microplastics, there are, micro filters available that you can install. And there's starting to be units that you can install for PFAS. Like there's new, combustion units that work, and there's some cleaning techniques that work. But it's still nothing, it's still in the moving stage. And pharmaceuticals is another issue that everybody's ignoring because nobody wants to deal with it.
yeah, it's even tested in fish,
Yes,
diabetes.
our pharmaceuticals are going through the wastewater treatment plant and affecting, the fish in rivers. May I add a new item?
Let's do that at the top of the agenda.
I'm sorry, but if we're doing if we're doing a dozen operators meetings, can we not have the operators meeting on Friday morning at 9 a.m.? We should have it when Webster can attend.
Well,
I'd support that.
should
Should
we,
we do that next week?
and the 23rd?
Yeah,
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
put that on the next one.
Okay.
That'd be good.
that'd be great.
I'm
Okay,
sure Jeff would be very happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be pleased. Any of the other 4 days would be great.
Great. Then I would prefer an afternoon meeting than a morning one.
Fine with me.
I'm not a morning person either. There's.
It's
things-
easier for me to
things
leave work in the afternoon than it is in the morning.
do. So the day and the time? Or.
Right, because Friday mornings just cuts out Webster.
Okay. So Wednesday, I will publish the meeting or the agenda for the 23rd. I'll add that. Any other additions? No. Okay. So the biosolids contract, is there a motion to get that in place for September to start the bidding?
I put a motion out to take bids for the biosolid contract in September.
Okay,
Support.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Or, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we've gone through everything and you have an article to read. Fun. And now we're back to public comments and we have less people.
Okay. I should have said too that my name's Andrea Lucan, I'm a Loch Alpine resident. And I did attend our own neighborhood board meeting about this for a moment, just to tell everybody what was going on. And I've also talked to a lot of neighbors about it, so the problem I ran into with my own insurance, which I did think I was gonna have to go through, was that a lot of people don't know about this sewage endorsement you're supposed to have. Like, most people I talk to have no idea. I did not know until this incident. And so I think I wanna learn from this and I wanna help the people in my community and you prevent this from happening again. And so I think, one, when this happens and you're just kind of in fight or flight or shock. So I just called who I've called before, like I didn't even think to call Lhasa, I just thought, what did I do to create this? I thought it was my fault. So, but then that didn't ring true. So I think when you're writing a new rate or like rates or whatever that is, maybe repeating that there's an emergency line for Lhasa. Maybe using my example to be like, hey, if it's this much water, likely not from your house. To call Lhasa because it catches you off guard and literally we burnt our own pump out that night on May 5th, trying to get it out, and then we had to try to go to sleep, which I didn't. And it's very it's just very, it almost feels like you got robbed, right? Like it's very intrusive and violating, to lose everything. So and I also want people, like I see, it's really helpful to come here and sit through the minutia of your insurance policy and rates and see like what's really involved, because I do complain about it, like I'm like, wow, my water's pretty hard, but I pay so much for it, so it helped me appreciate, because I used to live in Ipsy Township, and my water's way cheaper there, like it was way cheaper, like $90 for 3 months. And to go up to like 300 plus is like.
That was Detroit water.
Whoosh, yeah, I really liked it.
Yes, Detroit water is very good.
It's very, very good. So, that really, but I live in a really beautiful place. So these are things, but I think it would benefit everybody for those things to come across, and like, I'm not trying to, like, I've seriously suffered, a loss, and so I'm not trying to like profit or anything. I just like don't want to be at a huge loss for something that I had no control over. Like, it's not my job to know where the manholes are. It's not my job to maintain sewers. It's not like I can't even, it's not my job that they chip sealed over the manhole where they could see it. So anything I can do to help everybody involved, I would be happy to do it, because it's really a nightmare to go through.
And I agree, better communication, emergency number, we were looking at the websites, we have 3 different pages. One at Zio, there's 2 for Lhasa, There's something like that. I mean,
There's one
we
at
were looking
the
for information.
LAIA. page,
LAIA.
And there's 3 on the Scioto Township page for LASA, and they're all different.
Yeah,
And yes, plus there's LASA.org, which is different still.
yeah.
And I wanna trust that the right thing will happen, you know, that the truth matters and that the right thing can still happen. Cause, it's hard these days. So. Yeah, and so I'm happy to help you copy the files off my thing if you wanna do that.
Yeah, we'll do that in just a minute.
Anything else you need,
Awesome.
please ask me, cause happy to help.
He's gonna check if there's anybody online.
Barbara. What's your person? Oh, yeah, I did.
It is a moment, there you go.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, there you go. You should be muted.
Hello, everyone. Rob Pattinson, Scioto Township resident. I've got a couple of questions for Kevin. You said that the sewer backup coverage for 2025 going forward is going to be capped at $100,000. What was the rate capped at for 2023 and 2024?
It'd be the same 100,000.
Okay. And what is your experience with other customers that have had the sewer backup things? Has been 100,000? Has that been enough to cover the damage caused by sewer backups?
100,000 has been adequate. Again, every situation is different, but yeah, I mean, the 100,000 has been adequate. I would say 95% of our accounts that have sewer exposures carry that limit.
Okay. Here's the reason I'm asking. The contractor 3 meetings ago said that Loch Alpine was very lucky that Mrs. Luton had a walkout basement, that if she had an enclosed basement, it would have literally been filled within that 33 hours. And it seems to me that there would be significant foundation damage and that sort of thing. So it seems to me that for a full basement, a regular basement, that maybe $100,000 would not be enough. What do you think?
Based on our experience with previous claims, I would say it has been enough. I mean, we can always offer higher limits, again, additional cost.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. Thank you for your answering the questions. Appreciate it.
Well,
Anyone else for public comment online?
Kevin, I've got a question, that discussion.
yes,
I was under the impression that Decker was insuring the Loch Alpine Sanitary Authority's structures, not our customers' structures.
correct. I mean, that was just on the liability side. And then there's a separate property section that provides coverage for the Loch Alpine structures, and that limit was 8.3 million.
8.3, 8.4.
Yeah.
Okay, so your policy then does cover this sort of backup situation.
There is sewer backup coverage in policy, and the sewer backup coverage applies when LASA is legally liable.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that's what's being investigated, determined that legal liability.
So we're covered, we meaning the authority is covered both ways, its customers and its own structures.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question then. So if I had the sewage endorsement and then my insurance went through and then there was subrogation, like, if they found you at fault, you would pay them back, like your company that you used to insure, like Tokyo Marine would pay back State Farm.
If
If you were at
LASA is
fault.
legally liable.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the key there, the language is if we're determined that LASA is legally liable.
okay,
And then the limit currently in the policy is that 100,000.
yeah.
So LASA could be found to be legally liable beyond that limit.
I mean, I'm gonna get it after this.
Insurance is just, would only pay up to that 100,000.
Mhm.
It's listed.
Yeah. But if I didn't, I would have lost my house. Like, it was like that much and it was just jetting out the whole time. For 33 hours, it would have hit the ceiling. I would have lost my house. It would have had to been burned down or something. It was disgusting. So,
Is Rob finished?
Rob, are you finished? You're muted again. so-
All done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone
I
else?
appreciate clarifying that that there's two sets of coverage. There's the coverage for Loch Alpine structures, and then there's the coverage for the customer structures. And it's the customer structures that are limited to $100,000, right?
Correct, it's the liability limit of 100,000 for the sewer backup.
Right. Good to clarify all that. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rob. Anyone else? All right. Retold attendees, see no one else? Jillian?
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn at what time?
7:04?
7:04?
I will move to adjourn.
There a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.